Borussia Dortmund, who won that game, will be facing Real Madrid next up, just as they did in the Champions League final in 2024. That time around it went Real Madrid's way. This is how things are shaping up now when it comes to the quarterfinals of the Club World Cup. Borussia Dortmund, the last team to book their spots there. It's Palmeiras against Chelsea, Fluminense, Al Hilal, PSG taking on Bayern, and of course Real Madrid against Dortmund. It was Real Madrid who beat Juventus yesterday 1-0 in Miami to make it to the quarterfinals. Juve coach Igor Tudor was not happy about the playing conditions. This is what he had to say afterwards. He said the conditions were really difficult today. 10 players asked me to be replaced. They were really tired. The conditions that they played with were really difficult. The humidity too, and the heat, that was another thing that made it more difficult. So Julien is here. Alexis Nunes is joining us. She was at that game yesterday. We'll get more from Alexis in just a moment, but this is not the first or last time that we've heard a player or a coach complaining about these conditions, Craig.
Well, it shouldn't really be a surprise coming to the United States this time of year, although, as we've discussed in the last 7 to 10 days, the weather has been sort of extra hot around the country, hotter than normal by a fair bit. But the conditions are difficult for the players. There is no doubt about that. And that's part of the problem that I've got with this tournament per se, is we have these conditions. It is technically the end of the season. We haven't got to pre-season yet. And it seems like a lot of these teams, the players are getting flogged. And that's the issue I've got with this competition, full stop, in its current guise. You know, we all grow up, and I don't want to harp on about it, but these are factual things with the storms and the humidity. And these players have just come off the elite players have come off a lengthy season. And then to go into games where you're just hanging in 100-degree heat. How's that preparation? How's that going to make you better come the start of next season? And the issue I have is we all grow up as youngsters with the ambition to play in major tournaments. A World Cup, a Euros, a Copa America, an African Cup of Nations, you name it. Those are the things you know you're going to aim for. You know they're in the summers, you know they come along every 4 years or whatever it is, but you aspire to play in these tournaments and you accept that. It is the pinnacle of the sport. What we're seeing here are technically are players being flogged in this heat in a contrived competition of 32 teams. That's the issue I have with this whole scenario, is that is 3 weeks, even at the end of this, is 3 weeks going to be enough before these guys have to start pre-season again, where they're going to be flogged again? That's the issue I have. So it's the weather, it's the timing, it's the whole format of the tournament, and it's when it is at the end of a long season. I just have and this heat thing just adds to it. I just have an issue with the whole thing, and it comes down to, for me, player welfare. But for others, particularly FIFA and the clubs and the ownership, it comes down to one thing: dollar signs.
Yeah, we've seen these complaints across the board, Jules, sometimes after a losing game like Igor Tudor's Juve, but we've seen it from winning teams as well, from Luis Enrique. We've seen Jude Bellingham talking about it yet again. Another complaint about the playing conditions here from Tudor.
Yeah, you're right. And so Maresca the other day, after that quite incredible scenario against Benfica, where the game was stopped with 5 minutes to go, and then we had to wait 2 hours because of the storm, and then they could play again. It went to extra time, and he said this is not football, and you have to take all of that in consideration. There's a World Cup to come, which is by far more important than what we've seen now with this Club World Cup, with more repercussions and more consequences and more at stake really than the money that you can earn by winning this first Club World Cup in this format. Really, I think the big difference as well with a lot of clubs are saying, well, listen, we come here on pre-season too. We come here to the US for our tour and pre-season usually, and so this is not really different. It is different because on pre-season, and we've done a lot of those friendly matches from pre-season on ESPN, they don't kick off at 12 local time or 2 p.m. local time. They kick off in the nighttime for us in Europe and in the evening time in the US, which is very different. Asking those players to play some games at 12 p.m. on the West Coast or even on the East Coast with those conditions, for me, that's where the mistake has been made. But you can't do anyway. If you want 4 games in a day in the Club World Cup, some games will have to stop inevitably at 12 p.m. local time, which, again, at this time of the year in the US, is crazy to make the players play then.
Yeah, Alexis, let's just get word from you, because obviously you were at that game that Igor Tudor is talking about yesterday. What were the conditions like? How hot was it? What did it feel like to be there?
Yeah, okay. Well, you know, obviously growing up in Jamaica, I'm so 100% used to these conditions. But yesterday was a difficult one. I probably would liken it to running or having to play a game of football in a steam room or a sauna. The humidity felt like more than 100%, if that's even possible. It was just very sticky, very groggy. I mean, even our own Mark Ogden, he lasted about 5 minutes outside in our observer seats before he said, I've had enough. I have to go in the press box where there is some air conditioning. But still, I can't imagine playing in these conditions long term as well. I did say that even last week when we saw more of a scorching heat, the sun is out, it's on you, you feel like you're baking, and you would probably think that's worse, but this time it's overcast. Look, in these parts, we're familiar with the fact that it is the beginning of hurricane season. We're 1 month into it. There are showers in the day, stormy conditions that raise the humidity, but either way, it's so sticky. Sometimes you feel like you can't breathe, and that, I think, is what a lot of the players were feeling. They just feel very slow. They feel very heavy. They feel like they can't catch their breath enough, and that the water breaks and the cooling breaks that they're having is just simply not enough for either of these conditions that we've been experiencing here, at least in Florida. They're allowed one per half, up to 3 minutes each. But even with all the water, the Gatorade, the Powerade that they get, the cooling towels, they're still saying it's not enough. And that's why we saw this Juventus players, as well as the Real Madrid players, as well as the fans, as well as myself as well, doing the show afterwards outside waiting. It is really tough conditions. And I think it is something that FIFA is going to have to consider as we look ahead to the World Cup next year, even more so if they haven't already.
Yeah, and Borussia Dortmund players too, because Alexis, yesterday you were able to catch up with Gregor Kobel to speak about the conditions in the Club World Cup. Here's what he had to say.
For sure, it's tough conditions. I think it's part of the game as well. I think you need to adjust to the situation as good as you can. Maybe adjust the play style a little bit, because I think that's nothing you can change. So, yeah. It's just about how can you get the team and yourself in the best position to play good football. And that's what we have to do.
So you kind of just say that, look, it's life, that's football, we have to deal with it. Because we hear from like Pep, we've heard from even Jurgen Klopp as well, who was saying that, no, if we're thinking of next year, the World Cup, it's unfair to ask players to play in this kind of things, and even fans to come out and watch.
I mean, unfair, I can see the criticism where they're coming from. I think it's definitely tougher to be able to get your whole potential on the pitch in that environment. But at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, it's what it is now. I think as an athlete, you try to focus on the stuff you can control, and I think the weather and the conditions are a little bit out of your control. So I don't try to make too much thought about that. So I just try to put yourself in the best position to play a great game.
My bad, that interview actually took place today with Alexis. But you know what came up the other day? You played in Mexico '86.
I was just about to bring that up. You know, all of these things from all the coaches, everybody involved. Now we're here talking about players not wanting to play, who want to be replaced. Again, it comes back to the fact that this tournament isn't respected by anybody, including the players and the coaches. You know, you talk about '86. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Mexico. In '94, all the teams. '94 was USA, right? Mm-hmm. The Irish lads. You didn't hear any Irish lads not wanting to play for Ireland. Nobody complained about the weather. You don't think it was boiling as well? The problem is the tournament.
Correct.
Nobody respects this tournament, because I'll tell you, next year when the World Cup's on, you won't hear all this complaining. It'll all be about football. It'll be about why they lost. It'll be about the referee decision or the VAR decision. It won't be time and time and time again somebody coming on complaining about the weather. That's because they don't respect the tournament.
When you played in Mexico, it was warm. When I played in France, it was warm. Okay, the humidity wasn't there, but it was hot. It was in the middle of summer. And these players, as Stevie said, would not be complaining if it was a World Cup, because World Cups, major tournaments, are special.
Yep.
This is not. Maybe it is to some of the South American lads. Maybe it is to one or two of the Saudi Arabian teams. I don't know. I don't know. Where's Gianni Infantino? Has he popped his head above the parapet yet to discuss any of this? I haven't seen it. I haven't heard it. I tell you what FIFA do well. They know how to make a pound. They know how to make a dollar. They know how to fill their coffers. Do you know what they don't do well? They have absolutely zero respect for player welfare. Zero. Absolutely nothing. And we said that 3 months, 6 months ago about this tournament, regardless if it was played in 60 degrees or 100 degrees. It's just been exemplified because of the temperature. But the players know that, A, it's the end of a long season, and B, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is not for them. There's no real gravitas. It's not like you're winning the World Cup or the Copa America or the Africa, whatever it is. It's not that you've got that and it's on your mantelpiece. So you don't really have the desire to go out there and knock your pan in 100 degrees. You just don't. You're thinking about your holidays. You're thinking about this season coming to an end. It's a never-ending season. You're thinking about the rest you're going to get. And so all this thing, and again, I'm going to be intrigued what these FIFA cohorts say at the end of this tournament, the excuses they come up with. I don't think you can continue to have a 32... I really don't. Temperature, country, whatever. I think 32... I think it's way too contrived. It's way too long. There's way too many games. Yeah, it's going to make a lot of money for a lot of people. And if that's what it's all about, carry on. But I tell you what, if we were playing now, I tell you what, there'd be a mutiny having to come and play at this time of year, particularly in these conditions. It's unacceptable.
What do you think of what the guys are saying here, Jules?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything, and I think he has to come from the players. Remember when this was launched, and we heard a lot from Rodri and others about this is too much, we're playing too many games, this is even for the Qatar World Cup. And then the other day, Rodri said he was super happy to be there, and he wanted to win this tournament, and he wanted to win this competition. And now his team has lost. He seems to have got picked up another injury, whether it's related to the ACL or not, we're not really sure yet. But I haven't heard Rodri or anybody else now saying, managers, yes, and we said, and Alexis talked about what Jurgen Klopp also said. I'm not sure if RB Leipzig and Salzburg were still in this competition. I'm not sure if Jurgen Klopp would have opened his mouth like he did about the competition. But anyway, it doesn't matter so much. But the players also now have to really put a stand and go like, listen, now we don't want to play this anymore. We don't want to travel. You can play the kids. The under-19 will be super happy. The under-21s will be super happy to play in those conditions, between big clubs, all of that. But I think the players now, if really that's what they want, if really they don't want to play in this competition and go along with everything we've been saying about the conditions and the extra games, the fact that you'll have no holidays, because at the end of this tournament, then you go already into kind of almost your season starting in your league, then the players have to say more than what we've heard them saying so far in this tournament.
It's a big advantage to a lot of the other teams that are not here, isn't it, really? Mm-hmm. Although there's quite a long period before, particularly the European season start, sort of mid-August or thereabout, there's quite a period. There's still going to be a hefty pre-season to be done, even after whatever rest they're going to get. But if you're Liverpool, if you're Arsenal, if you're Barcelona, if you're some of the other big teams in the big leagues, and you're not here, and your players are sitting, probably still on a beach somewhere with the family, watching it, having a pina colada, happy, a glass of wine, thinking, my God. And the managers of those clubs are thinking, right, we can manage our whole summer, and we can put a plan out of our whole pre-season, and we can just build up to the start of the season. All the big, and I'm talking about the European teams in particular, all the big European teams that are in this, it's going to be a heck of a 6-8 weeks till the middle of August for them in terms of trying to prepare, rest, and then prepare again for the upcoming season. The injuries are going to be, and what injuries clubs do pick up is going to be a real interesting watch to see if there's any effect from this tournament on particularly on these big teams that are here, or whether the players are going to manage it and soldier on. We haven't got that answer yet because we've never had anything to test it on. But that is going to be intriguing. The first couple of months of a season, because to my mind, whenever you come off a major tournament, and I'm not considering this, but a major tournament, when we come off the World Cup in '98, we had a bunch of guys at Celtic that had all played in the World Cup for different countries, for Denmark, for Norway, for Scotland, blah, blah, blah. And every one of them, 3 months into the season, pretty much to a man, picked up some pretty bad muscle injuries. So we shall wait and see if it affects the teams that have played. We certainly know the teams that haven't played have had a right result.
Yeah. Well, one person we know will definitely be soldiering on is Alexis Nunes. Where are you off to next, Alexis? What have you got on the plan?
Well, okay, I'm absolutely buzzing about the next one because tomorrow we're off to Atlanta where it's PSG against our other German friends of Bayern Munich. And that one is thankfully in the Dome Stadium back in Atlanta. If I could do all my games there, I would. It's a brilliant stadium. I mean, when I was just speaking to Greg there, he was talking about how he wishes he could play all his games there as well. Much more comfortable environment. But PSG Bayern Munich, I mean, that's a blockbuster of a matchup on any day. And I'm sure the fans will be relishing it in summer.
Yeah, I wonder who Jules is going for. Thank you so much, Alexis. We'll speak to you again soon. Safe travels as well. Make sure to stay up to date with Gab and Jules, or even Jules and Robbo on the Gab and Jules show. The latest edition will drop on Thursday. Monday's edition is up now.